Chanukah story, so said over by Bnei Yissaschar. He's definitely not known as the storyteller amongst Hasidic Rebbe, as Torah is very complex. But this specific story, I think, captures the koch of Chanukah. Stories, like always, you have Moshe, the poor man, trying to make a living, and but the first person I heard this story from was Rebbe Shmuel Braun. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago to Farbrengen Chanukah and Lev HaTorah. So, very lo mutzlach. He tried this and he tried that and he tried to make a living, and nothing worked out for him. He was thinking things were getting really bad at home, very difficult to put stuff on the table, and he went searching for a job, and happened to be, he had this little shtetl. He wasn't making it. He looked a little bit outside his shtetl to get a job, and somehow he found a job in a restaurant in Paris. All the way in Paris. He was a little shtetl in the Ukraine. And he told his wife, listen, I have to make a parnasa here. We're not making it here. I have a job offer to go all the way to Paris and to be able to bring some money home and finally have some money. And the wife said, Paris, that's a place of tumah. You were from a little shtetl in Ukraine. What's going to happen to you in Paris? He's like, I have to feed my children. There's a basic need I have to do in my life. Please excuse me, I'm going to have to go to Paris to take this job and to feed our family. I'll send money home. Every few months I'll send money and you'll take care of the kids. They'll have what to eat, what to wear, and we'll live comfortably and I'll come back. So he goes to Paris, and he was in touch with the family. A few months goes by, the family got a beautiful letter from him. They got money from him, and so it went for a few months, maybe even a year. At a certain point, the wife stopped getting the money from the husband. No letters, no nothing, no contact with the husband. She got a little bit. She came a little concerned. What's going on? How come I'm not getting anything from my husband? What happened to my husband? What could have happened to him? So she decided to go to the tzaddik. She went to Tzvi Melech of Dinner, which was the Bnei Yissaschar, and she cried to him. She said, "I don't understand. My husband to Paris. He used to get money. He used to get letters. I don't hear from him. What's going on? What can I do?" So he said, on Chanukah, every night of Chanukah, you have to light the menorah. And you have to sit there the whole night by the menorah. Don't leave the menorah the whole night. Sit by the menorah every night of Chanukah, and hopefully something will come up. Okay? She didn't really understood it, but she was going to do that. Chanukah was coming up, and that's what she was going to do. She'd light the menorah every night, and just sit by the menorah, and she doesn't know what. Daven, what's going to happen. In the meantime, in Paris, so her husband Moshe already wasn't Moshe anymore. Maybe he was Mordu, Maurice, whatever it is. He was not following the path, and he realized that there's a whole great world out there, and he started keeping the money for himself. He moved into a nice apartment, much nicer clothing, kind of forgot about the little shtetl and forgot about everything, threw his payas away, threw the beard away, everything. And he was working in this restaurant, non-kosher restaurant, and they needed more wine. And they said, okay, go down to the cellar for more wine. As he's going down to the cellar, he says, an old man, long white beard, white payas, and says to him, come back. You have to come back. What are you doing? And he runs away. And they said, where's the wine? He's like, I'm sorry, I'll go back. And he pushed it off till, again, they said, we need wine for the cellar. Next day he went down and he saw this old man again, white beard, white payas, same man. Says, what are you doing with yourself? Go home. Go back to your shtetl. Go back to your family. They're waiting for you. So again, he was freaked out. Third time it happened, the guy grabbed him, says, you have to go home. And he looked at the man straight in the face and he says, who are you? He says, just go home. Go to your family. They want you. So Moshe was in a big conflict here. On one hand, he's enjoying his life in Paris. He's finally able to enjoy life. Finally, they would enjoy nice clothing and a nice apartment. He didn't want to go back to the shtetl, to his family of crying kids and mud. But he couldn't take this vision anymore of this old man in the cellar. So he went back. He went back to the long journey to the Ukraine. And he's walking. He finally gets to shtetl. It was late, 3 in the morning. It was all dark. He's walking around trying to find where his house, but he didn't want to go into his house, so he had to go back. And as he's looking for his house, he saw the Chanukah candles lighting in one. He says, wow, it must be Chanukah. He didn't even know it was Chanukah anymore. So the candles are lit, and then he comes closer and he sees that there's a lady by the candles. So what's going on here? 3 a.m, a lady by the candles. Not realizing that it was his home, he came closer and closer and closer. And the lady looked up, she heard the footsteps outside, and they both looked at each other. They looked at each other again, and he realized, this is my wife. His wife said, Moshe. And she runs out of the house, Moshe. And he starts running away, Moshe, come back here. And he turns around and he goes to the door and he says, listen, I don't plan to stay here. What, Moshe, what happened? Don't you want to see the kids? Don't you? I can't. I left this style of life, and I'm like, Moshe, please come in for tea, man. So the Rachamim took over him, and he looked at the Chanukah candles, and he looked at his house, he looked at his sleeping children, and he couldn't leave. And his wife was talking to him, talking. She said, he said, what are you doing at 3 a.m, of the Chanukah candles? She said, I went to Tzvi Elimelech of Dinif, and he told me to sit by the Chanukah candles every night. I didn't know why, but now I know why. Because you came, and because I was sitting by there, I saw you and you saw me. So he said, wow. He spent the night there, he met his kids. He decided, he's going to give the shtetl a little more time. He didn't go back to Paris. And he got back into things. And he wanted to go to this tzaddik of Tzvi Elimelech who told his wife this. He made the journey. And he sits down in front of Tzvi Elimelech and he looks at his face and he faints. He said, what's the matter? He looks again, faints again. He says, don't you remember me? You were the old man in the cellar there in the wine who's telling me to go back. Tzvi Elimelech gave a smile. He says, you were the person who told me to go back. You knew, you orchestrated the whole thing. Again, he gives a smile. And he thanked Tzvi Elimelech for putting him back in the direction, to put him back with his family. I think this is the yesod maybe of Chanukah, and this is what Shmuel Barum was saying, that this is the last time in Golus, in the darkness of Golus. This is the last kiss that Hashem gives Am Yisrael, the last big nace that Hashem gives Am Yisrael with the Beis HaMikdash, and it's the last look, it's the last chance, it's the last look. Even in the darkness, we have the last of the Chafei Kislev in the dark. We're seeing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're looking and we're remembering who we are, where we came from, and that probably one of the biggest yesodos of Chanukah, that in the darkness, to see that light, and to remind ourselves, no matter how far we got, no matter how distant we've gone, and we've gone to Paris, and we've left our life, whatever it may be, there's always the nekuda of light inside of us to come back to. There's always the Ruach Piv Hashem in us to come back to. And Chanukah is the time to reawaken and rekindle that Pach Hashem, that light inside of us to come back, and we can always come back. And a lichtig in Chanukah.